Donations?
Donations.
School improvement report.
Most of the data in the report you have seen at some point or another, but Sue's just going to go through that with you, at least some of it with you, and highlight some of the things that are in there. So, go ahead.
Okay, yep, I'll just start. And it's basically in the format that we've done in the past. And it just seems, I told Rob there's probably a shorter way of doing it, but I don't know, this seems to work. I did have 3 secretaries working on this just because of the way we kind of juggled our time around. So, but the AA, I think, did a pretty good job putting it together. If you look at page 1, it just shows our school improvement team for the district and representations of the different stakeholders that we have. On page 2, those are our student achievement goals, and we've had those for a very long time. Probably wouldn't hurt for us to kind of re-look at that, possibly. The board goals, I always put your goals in on page 3 because that supports what we're doing in the rest of the document. On page 4, the goals, Rob went through the goals last meeting and shared those with you. I did make the change on goal number 1 with the reading. I think there was a middle school change there, so we took care of that. And so that is up to date. I caught that before it went in. So we were 5.5% behind our goal for grades 3 through 11. In reading, we were down 3.5% for math, and we were down 4.4% in science. Our 4th goal is social studies, and we do the problem solution, which I'll talk a little bit more about when we get to that point. Next page, we talk about goal 5 is our all schools, students feel safe and connected to school, and we do measure that with a variety of assessments, and we are making some changes for next school year, and I'll share those with you as we proceed. So life skills, is there a chance, it's pretty much, you can kind of see pretty much ballpark. It looks like 4th grade this year didn't quite make as much growth. We have new opportunities come out, and they do the life skills training for our students, and I believe it's for a period of 6 weeks for each 4th and 7th grade, and then they take a pre and a post, and that's where they come from. And stop me if you have any questions, don't hesitate. On student achievement results, most of these are district-wide assessments, and I do the 3 areas, reading, math, and science. The only one on here that wouldn't be everybody that's able to take the assessment would be the ACT, and that just show those results in the back. That's not considered a district-wide assessment. We don't expect all of our students to take that assessment. So anyway, so it's pretty much nothing really changed on that this year. Turning to reading, and I know they shared the results at the last meeting, but just to give you an idea, on that page 7, it shows how we compare percentage-wise with our peers across the state of Iowa. So this is as updated as I can get. And it looks, we're in 4th grade reading, we're up 3.3% from our peers across the state. The average, or the percent and I shouldn't say average, the percent proficient across the state in 4th grade, 7.6% across this, better than our peers across the state in 8th grade. And then in 11th grade up 4.5%. So when we compare to all the other schools in the state, we're actually doing pretty good. I mean, even though we probably didn't have the results that we'd love to have, we are doing pretty good in that. So I'm going to have you flip, unless you have any questions about these documents that we run off, it's pretty much everything set up in the, all the students in the grade, gender, comparison of males to females, IEP students, and non-IEP students, and socioeconomic status. And we've done that in the past. So if you do go through this and you look and you wonder about something, sometimes a red flag shows up and you wonder why it happened, and sometimes we can't always answer it because it's just the mix of the group, and it's just kind of the way it is. So I would love to be able to say it's cause and effect, and then sometimes you just don't always know that. I want you to flip to page 44, and these are our FAST and IGDs results, and on this you'll see fall and spring for 4 years. So this is our 4th year we've just completed of this. This is when, a lot of times, and I've told you this in the past, that when we get our students in and your 4-year-olds come in the fall and they take this test, we have no, we have no control about what happened at 3 years old or 2 years old or 1 year old. But you can kind of see there in the bottom 2 boxes on the right, you'll see the percentage benchmark in Carroll in the fall. That's right away out of the chute within the first 2 or 3 weeks. And then at the end of the school year. So you'll see that we have, when our students came in, and we had 116, this only includes the Fairview group, I didn't put Kemper in with it. And you can see that we were at 16.38% proficient in Carroll, which was actually lower than the state, but in the end, our teachers we came out with 73.95%, which is just a little bit lower than a year ago. Like I said, sometimes it's just the makeup of your group. And we were actually started out lower last year and showed great gains, but it shows the persistence of our teachers to work and try to get that done every day. They even have gotten to the point that this year they included SNAC. SNAC is a center so they can keep kids working on skills. So SNAC becomes a center so they can work with, let's say, 12 other kids in the classroom. So they put it in the rotation. Next year, because of the new state, I'm not sure you're aware that the state, because of the mess we've had the last couple of years, and actually this past year went really pretty good, that they're going to come out with a new, it's the same program but a different, I don't know what you call it, it's just going to be a different website that we go to. But for IGBs, the 4-year-old, they're going to be doing it recording paper pencil. For some reason, they're not quite ready for them to go up. One thing I'd just like to tell you about, I'm going through this, and Rob always says, well, do you have anything to share at the board meetings? And I'm like, oh, I could have shared this, or we could have had teachers come in. But we've had preschool parent nights the last 2 springs as a front load to the kids coming in the fall, and it's worked out really nice. But when they started talking, they thought maybe they'd rather have one in the fall once they get the kids in, the 4-year-olds. It might be more relevant to have them be in the same year, like having them come in September or October for that school year, because we're so far out. April just seems, so far out when we're talking. So it's a possibility they've talked about. So, and then we'll kind of flip through, and what I've done is when they meet the 80 percentile, that's ideally what the state is telling us. If your district meets in any grade level 80%, then that's really pretty good. And you can see where our kindergarten students ended up. And I'm showing you these 2 boxes right here on the back side, because it'll show where we are compared to the state. And you can see that at the end of the year we ended up 89% proficient with our kindergarten class compared to 69.38% of the kids across the state, the kindergartners. And that would be, with our population, was 122 out of 142. So you can see that worked out pretty good. And every time, like if we can do preschool can be strong and kindergarten can be strong, then it's going to help benefit all the way across the board in this. So it's really important for us to lay that foundation. First grade, we went backwards, and if you can see down there, it looks like you're going backwards, but you're really not going backwards, because the first test is sentence reading, which is which is a simpler concept than reading a passage. So that's why, but it doesn't mean, it's not an excuse, because I think, we just need to keep working at it and plugging away. And we've had other years where we've had, like last year, you can see where first grade went from 78.5% to around 84%. So persistence is going to drive us, and the more that we can be deliberate in our instruction, the better. Second grade was a very good year. We had probably one of their best results they'd ever had. And they had a tough crew, but they got tight on their strategies, and we call it precedence, a phonics strategy, because there's 2 things we really look at. We look at accuracy and fluency, and kids have to have the accuracy before they can really be fluent. And they worked really hard, and probably one of the more successful grades, working with that persistence and wanting to help the kids and just keeping them moving as they met their skills. So they ended up with actually one student out of 132 that was not accurate out of the whole crew of kids that they tested. So that was pretty good. They may not be as fluent, but they're accurate, and that's important. Third grade, you'll see the results there. And compared, if you look all the way along this, if you look at what we do compared to the state, we're still higher. Our target is always that 80%, just trying to meet that. Fourth grade, you'll see they did an outstanding job too. And you can see where they ended up, 84.67% compared to the state, 65.4%. And they work really hard. That's another, we've got a lot of success stories, and like Rob should just say, so pull yourself together. You have success stories, you have something to share at a board meeting, but you always reflect on it, and here we are. And then 5th and 6th grade, they haven't done, 4th grade's only been involved in it 3 years, and that's because Adam, 3rd grade moved up here, so then they took 4th grade at the same time. And then 5th and 6th grade have only done it 2 years. There's always that question, is that a value? This assessment only takes about three minutes per student. So it's just that touch point of knowing where they're at. And you can see pretty good stories with both 5th and 6th grade in their data. Okay, any questions about that? And I've given you more numbers so you can compare. Generally, you'll notice that the number of students participating, especially at 5th and 6th grade across the state, is less, just because they aren't required to, but it's best practice. And I think some information, we're getting information that says when kids get to high school, they're going to have to be monitored also as part of the differentiated accountability, is to extend preschool through 6th grade to beyond. So there will be some, if students are proficient, we're going to have to continue to monitor them in those upper grades. I believe Rob shared the NWA reading last time, so we'll move on to math. And in math, you can see that our 4th graders were about 9.1% for proficient in Carol. We're at 88.1%, and the state 79. And you can see that's an increase of about 9.1%. And same for 8th grades up and 11th grades up. And so when we compare with our peers across the state, grade level wise, 4, 8, and 11, then you'll see that we're doing we're doing pretty good. Always do better. Never be content. And same thing for, as we look through this data here, and you can see that same format for that, and you see historical perspective. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, then if you look at page 90, and that's the math facts, and this was just something we've done for 5 years, and it's really hard for us to find a math assessment. This year we volunteered to be a pilot for a screener, and I'm hoping we can get some solid math data. One of the schools across the state picked for that. So hopefully, keep my fingers crossed, that it'll help us more kind of with the picture of math. So you can look horizontally, because you can see that we test 5 times a year for addition. The dark green doesn't show up, but that's all addition, and then you go with the gold is goldish orange is subtraction, and the blue at the bottom, and it flips over to 5th grade. We also do 4th all the way through 5th grade. And so you can kind of see where we are with our data, multiple years each year. And the only difference would be 1st grade does about 30, that I believe does 30 problems each testing, and the rest of them are doing 100 problems for their time test. And so we just like to see growth. It's not something that the kids get graded on. It just gives the teacher an opportunity. Which facts aren't they getting? What do you need to reteach, or what do you need to show them a strategy? Doubles or something like that, or making a 10 and then adding or whatever. There is one mistake on here that I noticed, and I was like, oh, how come nobody said anything to me? It's in the 3rd grade division at the bottom there, where it said 77.7%, and I'm like, Sue, you know, why didn't you notice it? No one said anything to you. But it's really supposed to be 26.5. So it kind of, everything always kind of moves along. So if you look at that and you want to write it in, it's 26.5, not 77.7. It was just like, wow. And that was what we did right after Christmas break. So anyway, I couldn't figure that out. So that was, so and as you can see, our third graders who are introduced to both multiplication and division, you know, did really pretty good with those facts. And then you just see how what they look like by the time they get to fifth grade. You know, we've always had, you know, at middle school when they don't know their facts, and we just kind of just check them at those 5 checkpoints a year, and teachers work on those with different strategies or helping kids as we progress. So anyway, any questions about math? This is the NWEA that Rob shared with you last time. And we look at science, and we usually really do pretty good in science. Always have. It's kind of from a historical perspective. And we compare 5, 8, and 11, and that's kind of the way the states identify 4, 8, and 11 for reading and math. Science is 5, 8, and 11. And you can see that we're increased our fifth graders are higher, you know, higher percent of students proficient than our peers across the state. Same for fourth grade, same for, or 8th grade, same for 11th grade. Then if we, kind of the same format, if you ever have any questions about any of these things, don't hesitate to email me or give me a call, and I can check it out or give you an answer. If you look at the bottom of page 130, there it's NWEA. We only pay for 5, 8, and 11 to take the science test, mainly because it's an expense. We spend quite a bit for reading, math, are expensive, and then, you know, just doing those checkpoints on science are done. So you can kind of look and see. Those are called grit scores, just similar to those charts that Mr. Cordes shared at the last meetings and we've shared with you, except the only difference is we just kind of do, I just put them in a chart versus putting in the other type of document that Rob has. That Rob's helping create. So you can kind of see where the grit scores are, and that's where we're at. But we are spending more time on science, the next generation science standards. So we have spent more time at the PD this school year working on that, talking about it. We found some really good websites. That would be another important thing that we could share with the school board too, is just how we're working with some of those websites. The fourth goal is social studies, and if you look at social studies, you'll see on probably there's some feedback statements there. But if you look at page 133, 133, and 134, you'll see that there were 5 projects that were completed first semester, and there were 9 projects. Sophomores completed 9 of the problems and solutions in the second semester, and some of these were brought to you via, brought to the board for commissions or for information or whatever. So they do a really nice job. I asked Becky Bass if she thought they would continue, and she thought, I think Tammy and Becky thought it would continue with new teachers and new teacher. So, any questions about that? I know you might say, why don't you use the Iowa Assessment Social Studies? Well, basically it's not a social studies test. They probably get more out of this citizenship piece than they do out of like a social studies test that asks which direction or something. You know, I mean, it isn't a solid social studies test, and maybe they'll come out with something in the future for that. The fifth goal I want you to turn to, and I've given you some activity, or giving you the past years too, where they've done the problem solution. So if we flip to page 143, Ashley Webker was new this year, and so she tried to come up with a goal, kind of a pre and post test, and she didn't feel confident. So I said, let's just not include the results this year, and let's try a new one next year. And then also Mr. Lowe third grade. He didn't do a pre-test, but he did have his baseline for a post-test on decision make. Let me see, I might have that in here. If I put that in. Let's see. His was called Responsibility, Decision Making, and Conflict Resolution, and it was a 10 question. So I'm hoping that we can elaborate a little bit more next year and with Ashley's assessment in there too. She just felt like the kids didn't quite, the vocabulary she used, they weren't quite connecting to. And I said, no big deal, let's just start all over. So we're going to start all over next year. The KINS is, so we do, Ashley will do her assessment on kindergarten, first and second. You know, Mr. Lowe does the third grade. Fourth grade is that, fifth grade is the one on KINS. That's kids into not smoking. And it's also done through New Opportunities. And we just kind of check and see. It's just a pre-test, post-test, and then we call them by classes. Actually, when they send them to me, they give me the teacher's name, but I just change it to class 1, class 2, class 3, you know, all the way through for those grades. And the next page, you will see the life skills that are taught for 4th and 7th grade. Same idea was the classes, except it's vertical versus the horizontal going. It's horizontal by class. Their data pre-test, post-test, and so that would be 4th grade and 7th grade. So it's the same data you saw earlier, it's just on a chart that I threw in. Report of findings, you know, it just talks about how do we share this different information, like it's shared over multiple meetings here, might be something in the newspaper, you know, Facebook, website, the district website, and the district report card that people can access across the state once they get the data in for everybody. I include the philosophy of the district. And then one thing that's kind of interesting is to see the reading, math, and science, and we had to retype this, and this is where another secretary came in because one of them wasn't available, the one who had done the previous. And just comparing what's the average for each year for our students. There's no, it's different number of students every year, different population, but it's just kind of a checkpoint on that. And I've kind of kept that information over time. And I went through and I kind of circled the ones that were the biggest score, standard score for each year, for each like 1st grade year, for each 2nd grade year. Just checking to kind of see which was our best year, and 15-16 was a good year. And so, you know, just keep persisting. That's about the best way I can put it. The ACT results on 155 and 156, and I'm not sure if Ms. McKenzie shared those, but these are compared to Carroll, compared to state, compared to national. Out of this, we had 68% of Iowa students took the ACT, 64% of Carroll Community School District. These would have been the graduates from 2016 took it, and we found that 88.4% of our students scored at or above the state's identified college success indicator. And that's something that we've had, you can see over time. These are predictability for success in college and where we stand compared to, you know, the national or to the state. And as you can see, we're always higher than that. And then Rob helps me put together the graphs on each of these pages. Like if you look at page 157, then you'll see, depending on the icon, shape of the icon, you can, Carroll is high, usually the highest one, Iowa's the second, and then national. And over time, and we've taken out some years across the way here, but just to make sure our chart shows up our graph. And so you can look at those for reading, for English, for math, and science. And then on page 161, the composites of all, and you can see where we kind of crossed Iowa in 2009, 2010, 2011, and then we headed up, and so we're higher than our peers. For the goals for next year, we will be taking Iowa assessments at least one more year here. What I've done is I've kept the same goals as what we've had in the past, and you know what? gives us a challenge. We've got to beat those numbers. We've got to do better. So, not that we've got anything to, I mean, 88.8% is a tough goal to make, or 89.5 is the high, tough goal to make. 91.7 is a tough goal to make, but you know what? We just have to keep working at it and persisting, and we want to just make sure our kids are as ready as anybody in the state for the jobs and the college education that they need, the education they need. So. And that's basically an overview. We've seen a lot of this, throughout the school year, especially the second semester. Are there any questions about anything in there that?
It'll be interesting to see, because when I had my parent-teacher conferences this year, they showed the NWEA, and it gives where the kids would be on the ACT.
Yeah, that would be
interesting to follow this now that they have that, to see if it goes along with it.
Mm-hmm. And it's really hard, like at Adams, because those are, we're just at that baseline. But I can see when you can put multiple years together, that really is really effective.
Yeah.
And they're sending more and more information. I've been getting a lot about how we can help our schools and do that. So I've been training it up on that, and we'll share with the teachers. Anyway,
there's always a debate with ACT of who should take it, whether every junior should take that or not. Obviously, you can go back several years, you'll see some years we'll have 50-60% of our kids to take it. And part of the reason for that is that we don't encourage every student to take it. If we know, or if the student knows that they are going to a community college, there's really no need to take it, because they'll take a different type of assessment to get into a community college. And so that sometimes may be a question that comes up. The other thing I'd say about this is that these goals will come back before the board probably the September meeting, because we'll meet with the school improvement team. They're required under the statute to have input on those. And the one thing that Sue spoke to is one thing that we have resisted. We could set our new targets based on this past year's data. We've chose not to do that over time, simply because as we've reached a certain point, and we believe that we need to achieve higher than that point as opposed to what we achieved last year. So I hope that makes sense. But
and you don't want to wade with your grade. I mean, you just don't want to wade with that. You don't want to be up and down. You want to have that target. This is our target. It's not a moving target. It's our target. And I think that in a way teachers appreciate it. But we thought this past spring was our last time with Iowa assessments, that we were going to Smarter Balance, and then the legislature took over and that fell apart, and now it's one more year of this, and they're vetting. I'm guessing Rob predicted this. When did you predict it? Quite a while ago, that we would be with Iowa assessments, and I think we'll probably be with Iowa assessments, and hopefully they make it more timely, I think is what I would like to see.
I'm willing to bet they'll be with Iowa assessments after the 17-18 school.
I think they will. I think they will too.
They're resistant to change, simply because now they don't have any money.
It's always challenging, but the more data you look at, the more you try to figure out what's going on.
We would ask that the board accept the annual progress report, and then we'll make those available. Typically take several copies down at the Chamber of Commerce and some of the other businesses in town. We used to make hundreds of copies, and now we're down to about 30 copies because we're tired of having boxes of them left over.
So we need a motion to accept it, please.
I move to accept the annual progress report for 2016 to 17.
I'll second. Dwayne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Thanks, Sue.
Yes, thanks.
Raymond would like to recommend Alice Ballman for the half-time Family and Consumer Science position at CMS. Alice has taught half-time Family and Consumer Science at CMS during the 16-17 school year. She's also taught at Arweva, Susquehanna, and Pocahontas. Alice has 19 years of experience approved, should be on step 16 of the MA plus 30 lane and would receive $31,325.
And I would like to recommend Kendra Prevak for a special ed teacher associate position at Fairview. Kendra has driven a van and transported students for Audubon Community School District and also worked at Southeast Webster Grand Daycare. If approved, Kendra would work 6.75 hours per day and would be paid $11.07, beginning wage of $10.77 plus 30 cents an hour for 4 year degree. I would like to recommend Lori Nealon for a special education teacher associate position at Adams Elementary. Lori previously worked at Kmart. If approved, Lori would work 6.75 hours and would be paid $10.77 per hour. And this one is approval is recommended contingent upon receipt of a clear report from the background check process.
Tom Reader's recommending Kenneth Beck for a contracted bus driving position. Kenneth previously worked at Pella. If approved, he would work approximately 3.5 hours per day and be paid $17.35 an hour. Keith Strive is recommending Hannah Fuse for freshman softball coaching position. Hannah has 1 year of coaching experience. If approved, she'd be on step 0.5 and would be paid $1,913. Approval is recommended on both of those. Let's take those applications.
Anybody get a motion for approval?
I'll move to approve the recommendations.
Second.
John?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Next, contract modifications.
Sue, you want to take that?
Yeah, Sarah Clucky has been working as a teacher associate at Adams Elementary for the 2017-18 school year. She will work at CMS. She previously worked 6.75 hours per day. Her letter of assignment will need to be modified to 7 hours per day. Approval of modification is recommended.
Sarah is recommending several contract modifications here. Jenny Sipker would be to add 30 minutes, Carrie Sturm add 30 minutes, Judy Kolar add 30 minutes, increase her wage from $11.60 to $12. Linda Schaefer add 30 minutes, and the reason for this is we had a person resign, and Sarah's goal is to do this with as few people as possible, and they just felt that by adding some time other places, they could do it with one less person. So that's what they're recommending. And then I'm recommending that Sarah Anderson's contract be increased by 10 days from 230 days to 240 days. And those are to provide additional time for her in her work with the summer food program.
How is she getting paid now? Do they pay her for the summer food?
No, she
It
really
wasn't.
hasn't received any
Any
extra
extra
pay
pay.
for that. The first year, I think we were kind of waiting to see, is this just a one-year thing, or how's this all going to work out? But I will say, too, this second year has taken more of her time than the first year did as well. So I think this is fair. And then also, that increase will be paid for by the summer food program. So
And there's no indication that program's gonna get cut by the
Not-
federal government? I mean,
And Rob and I both visited with her. The agreement is if that would happen, she would go back to the 230. But
Sure.
we have not heard any indication that.
I think that horse has left the barn.
Year-round stages, it's a great program.
We're serving several more meals, several hundred more meals this year than we did last year. We thought last year was a banner. To be
yeah.
honest with you, I didn't think we'd do as many this year. I thought last year was new and so forth, but I mean, every indication. In fact, we have more adults eating now than we've ever.
Is it a federally funded program though, or a state federal? And didn't
I
it
think
kind of
it's-
come about because of Michelle Obama's like healthy kids eating initiative, or was it?
You know, I'm not
sure about that. I think it's in some places it's been around a while, and I think it's just becoming more and more necessary in Iowa as the percentage of free and reduced lunches go up, is so kids have a place to eat a warm meal. Is I think is part of it. But like I said, the adult meals, we charge $4, and at the beginning of the program, Sarah came in and asked if we could make a punch card. So we have 10 punches on there. So some people just buy a 10-day punch card and for $40 and come eat with kids. And cheaper than you can eat anywhere else in town.
Yeah.
But it's been a surprise to me, I would tell you that. Maybe not everybody else, but it's certainly a surprise to me. Participation both in breakfast and lunch. Lunch obviously is most popular. But.
And just a review, it's here at Adams Elementary because it has to be. We don't have any other schools that would, it's where they're located, the school. And so it has to be here at Adams. But on the flip side of that, that's actually been a benefit for us because it's centrally located. We get a lot of kids that come in, eat, and then go down to swimming. So that really worked in our favor, I think. It's a good location.
And they don't have to attend school here.
Oh.
Or they don't have to. They don't have to be.
Carol.
They don't have to be a Carroll resident. They don't have to attend the public school. Kemper's got a program. Public school kids could go eat if it's close to them to walk there. They can go there, and vice versa.
My kids base it on
The menu.
Yeah,
Menu.
the menu.
I'll move to accept the contract modifications.
Second. Who seconded? Brad. Jennifer?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Next, we have registration.
Yeah, the 2017-18 registration is well underway. We would certainly remind the board as well as the community that all of the registration process is online, and you can access that by going to the district's website. Under district information, there is a tab there that says registration, and so folks that have not registered, we'd ask that you do so. And also, we'll probably be sending out a letter later this week to parents of preschool kids to make sure that they register for transportation, because right now we're lagging there. We know we have about 170 plus kids signed up, but we don't have that many requesting transportation, and it's important that they request transportation, even if they're not going to use it, simply because that to some degree determines whether they're in the morning session or the afternoon session. So if you folks can get the word out on that for us, we'd appreciate it.
I timed myself when I did the registration for Abby and Drew, and it took me 8 minutes to do the 2 kids. It was very quick.
It would have taken you longer to drive here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we think the online registration,
I don't
which
mind that.
several districts are going to, is certainly a lot more efficient and a lot more effective for both the district and parents.
I was able to do it right here.
On your phone. That's nice. Next, we have the rescind the shared family consumer science teacher agreement.
Yeah, last month we approved that family and consumer science teacher, shared teacher with Arweva. That teacher, who coincidentally we just hired on a half-time basis, resigned her position. Arweva held her contract, and we basically bought part of her contract from Arweva. Well, since she has resigned her position over there and prefers just to teach half-time now, and so the shared agreement is no longer needed, and so we should take action to rescind that since we took action to approve that. So,
We get a motion to rescind that.
I'll move to rescind the shared family and consumer science teacher agreement with Ariva.
Second. Gina?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes. Next, we have the dissolve of the co-curriculars girls swimming program with Penrose.
yeah, and it's just the girls swimming program. They're going to they swim in the summertime with Perry, the Perry team, and it is closer for several of their families, and they wish to do that. In order to do that, they have to get out of this one, And then once they get out of this one, Perry will accept them, and so that's how the association prefers it to go. And so we would recommend that you do dissolve the co-curricular swimming program with Panora for girls.
I move to dissolve the co-curricular girls swimming program with Panorama School District.
Second.
Brad?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Participation in the
Yes.
Title I program?
Each year, we, that actually, application hasn't come yet. It typically comes the first part of August. But we would like the board to approve and participation in the Title I program and have Mrs. Ruck and Ms. Catani to file any necessary paperwork for participation in that program.
Move to approve our participation in the Title I program.
Second.
Dwayne?
Yes.
John? Jennifer?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Next, we have the IASB legislative priorities.
IASB wishes that you would select 4 out of the 30 legislative resolutions that they have. They're asking each board to, this year you don't have to prioritize them, but they are asking for 4 of the resolutions to be approved by the board.
They're much broader this year too, I noticed.
I would agree.
I had down, when I looked through them, 19 and 20. 19 is the school funding policy and 20 is supplemental state aid. That's 2 that caught my eye looking through. Does anybody else have anything else that they?
I had 19 as well. I also had 27, which was the
Thank you.
SAVE, Secure and Advanced Division for Education, with the trying to avoid the sunset on the penny sales tax.
Yeah, I had 19 and 20 and 27.
What were you gonna do, you see, Rob?
Well, those 3 are certainly high on my list. I would. It's hard to pick and choose 4. Number 4 certainly is I believe is important, and as well as there are several other that I see. Number 7 is becoming more and more important in the state. 11 is more of a personal preference of mine than it wouldn't necessarily classify it as a priority. 19, 20, and 27 are much more, and 4 for me would be a lot more important than that, but it still is a pain in my side. So those would, I think that.
Dwayne, what'd you have?
I had marked like 6 or 7 of them, so.
Okay, now pick 4.
I marked 3, 4, I had 11, which is a personal preference. I actually marked on 14 on that benefits. I didn't know if that was some of the changes, that was something we used to discuss. And then we had the 1920 as well. And yes, 27. With the,
I thought the insurance
Tax.
pools were interesting too, that 14, to see. It'd be interesting
I
if
put a
they ever
question
could
mark
do
by
that.
that one,
Yeah.
just as far as, is that a direction that districts are gonna be kind of forced to go or need to go?
I don't think it's got any traction myself, but I think there'd be a huge fight with that, but,
Yeah.
one thing about it, we'll have some time to see how that plays out as districts that are under the new collective bargaining now compared to having 2 years on a contract that we had.
Yeah.
So, I just don't think it's got traction, but.
So I'm seeing the common denominators of 4, 19, 20, 27.
Does everybody okay with that?
Everyone agree with that?
Sounds good to me.
If you had to choose, I mean, I like 7, which sounds 4, I think they're gonna place early literacy is going to continue to be a priority. Where mental health
And-
has kind of been that
and
redheaded stepchild
I
that
think
nobody
it's-
wants to deal with.
I think it's hard to get 1 point money when you have a halftime program. Not if you have an all-day program, that's a different conversation. But, you know, it's hard to argue. And some schools will tell you they're having difficulty spending their money now. Other schools are saying, hey, we need more. So, but there are some schools that have a full day of preschool, all-day program. Long day for a
I just, that seems like a long day.
This is me too, but
Just as long as they include a nap in the afternoon.
Long day for kindergarten.
They don't.
they don't for me.
They don't. They don't. They
You
don't.
know? Yeah.
Snack.
Snack time. A bit early.
So I've got 4,
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer.
19, 20, and 27.
All right.
I will submit those.
And then, Rob, did you want to go over the agreement of enrollment, or
Yeah, yes and no, I guess would be my answer.
did you get any answers on that?
No, I asked the questions, but they are having a consortium meeting. If you read that agreement, you'll see in there that administrators from those schools, that are involved in the consortium, will make up a, for lack of a better word, board of control for the consortium. And they are meeting this week to, in fact, I think it was either today or tomorrow, to discuss some of those questions I asked. And 2 of the questions I asked was, if a school joins a consortium and pays an X amount of money, what happens if they don't have a student to attend? And the other question was, if the district joins, pays the money, and when they do have a student to send to the consortium and it's full, what happens? And so, but no definitive answer on that. You know, obviously this is a program. It might help some of the things that we just talked about with the mental health issues. You know, I have a little bit of background with Jerry Radmer's Boys Ranch, but it's entirely different now than what it was when I worked with him. We had a student attend the day program for a semester last year. Obviously, the biggest hurdle for us is that we're 60 miles away. And so there's got to be some transportation issues there. But I also, in visiting with the principals, the question is, well, if we don't join and we have a student, what are we going to do? And the student that happened to attend last year, we didn't send, but the court did. So I would assume if a student is court ordered there, whether you're a member of the consortium or not, they're going to have to take you. Would be my guess.
So for the consortium, because I'm familiar with it, having worked some with that ranch as well,
Okay.
about 15 years ago. Those students that go there, we're talking just, they're gonna be there for the day and then would come back. Now, they're not gonna be housed there, where a lot, because there are kids that are housed there.
Correct. There are, and the consortium students would not.
Will not. So they're just.
Consortium students would only be in the day program.
And is that not, but that day, the program is at Manson, the school at Manson? if I'm
Correct.
right. So they would actually they'd be going to the Manson, not going to the.
Well,
ranch.
that's what's a little different too now, because the teachers are actually, for the program, are actually employees of Jerry Redmer's Boys Ranch. The principal of the program is a Manson Northwest Webster employee.
Okay.
When I was a principal at Manson Northwest Webster, we didn't have a day program. They came to the schools. And as time went on, that became
Problematic.
a little bit frustrating. And so they developed their on-site program after that. And I think part of this is also, I think the residential program that they have, they're meeting with some difficulty financially. And I think this was as a way to help keep their doors open as well. And so,
Well, if you could say the last 5 years, Rob, how, as you understand what students would possibly qualify to go there, I mean, would we have had very many students that would have been, I guess even say, considered to go?
we would have had at least one, and maybe more. And we would have, probably, as I think back to last school year, we would probably have some kids eligible to attend right away.
If it's not court ordered, who makes that call, AEA, or do they
Well,
have a group that comes
It
out?
would be the IEP team, which would include the AEA, which would include the principals and teachers, and of course the parents. But you know, at some point, it has to come down to where's the best place to meet the kids' needs. And if the learning if the behavior is interfering with the learning, then until the behavior piece is taken care of, there isn't going to be any learning taking place with that student and probably with others. So with a special education student, it would be the IEP team. With a regular education student, you know, you certainly would want to work with the parents. But there would also be a point where, at least I would say to the parent, this is an option. And right now, this is your last option. Because if you don't agree to this, then we're going to expel the kid. Now, that's taking a hard line, I get it. I don't like doing that. But again,
But there are
you know, it's
situations
the
where
same
it's
thing I
optional.
said as a teacher and I said as a principal. You know, if you don't want to learn, that's your business. If you're going to interfere with the learning of others, that's my business. And you know, I just see more and more of this. And so I wish I had a definite number as far as the cost. I don't. Originally, they were talking a lot more, between $30,000, $40,000, possibly $50,000 annually. Now they've got so much interest, they're looking at between 15 and 20 annually.
Plus
But
the cost of this.
I believe that will go towards the
That goes
cost.
towards the cost of whatever
But,
students.
You know, like Gary and I were visiting today, we paid a bill for a student that was there for the semester in excess of $30,000.
Yep.
So
32,000.
per semester.
If you don't use it, does it roll over to the next year?
That was one of the questions I think what the group is going to do is try to write some bylaws or at least some operating procedures. And it's kind of new right now, and I get it if the board doesn't want to approve this tonight. That's not a problem, I don't think. But if we're somewhat interested, I want to let them know that as well. And then we can come back and approve it maybe when we have some more definite answers, if you're more comfortable with that.
Is sending students to this school an option without this agreement?
I believe the only way they would get to go is
Unless
to be
the
court
court
ordered.
ordered.
If not court ordered, then the answer is no,
And this is
from
the-
what I've read in here.
And this is the only place like this in the area that we could send kids to.
Well, it's the only one that I know of, other than Spencer. This program is modeled after the program up at Spencer.
Which is even further away.
Right.
It's actually out in the country, it's not in town. It's between Manson and Fort Dodge. Just north of Highway 20,
Just north of Highway 7.
or 7, excuse me, yeah.
Could you tell them that we're interested, but we need more information before we make that
Yep.
approval?
And I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah.
Is everybody okay with
That's
doing
Yeah.
that?
And,
do. That's
and that
very
might,
fair.
you know, the only thing I would tell you is that might mean we might have to have a special board meeting at noon to approve it sometime to get in the program.
Are you trying to get it done before this coming school year?
Yes. They're working hard to get it in place.
Even if they don't have, like, the dollar figure is probably the biggest question mark. Even if they gave you, here's what the cap would be, they might not have here's exactly what it'll be, but if here's what the cap would be.
Most of your, what I would call seed money would be paid from special education because 99% of your students will have some type of, because that's for significant behavioral problems. It's not just for some kid that might be a pain in their backside for a week. I mean, they have to have some definite problems. And, you know, one thing that would, most students, I'm not saying all, because they said they would take regular education students as well, but for the most part, there'll be special education kids there. There's probably gonna be anywhere from 5, no more than 6 kids to a teacher. And they're gonna have some behavior goals in their IEP in order to probably even get a foot in the door. And unless a student scored over. I mean, you might have a regular ed kid that's either scored over.
Did you find out how long the program's supposed to last?
Well, it
Depends on the kids.
depends on the kids' needs, depends on their goals. Once they reach their goals, then they would be discharged. And hopefully they have the skills to come back to their resident district and be successful.
Is there an age range?
Right now, they're looking at 4th through 12th grade.
And we'd have transportation costs on top of
Yeah.
that.
We would be responsible for the cost of educating the student. Whatever that cost might be, you know. And again, that would depend on the student. But we'd also have the transportation costs on top of that.
That's something you could just take a smaller vehicle if you had to, right?
Yeah, we would typically take it. But again, depending on the student, there might be more than one adult in that thing. You know, if you've got a combative student, you probably aren't gonna wanna send one employee in that van with the student.
Can we get a cage installed in the back?
Don't laugh.
Dividing wall at least.
We end up partnering with another district around and some transfers too.
Transform in the back
That's
of the pickup.
certainly a possibility.
Okay, so we don't need to take any,
No, I think you've given me direction, that's the main thing that I need.
okay.
So,
Next, we have a lot of board policies. First one is board policy 400.
and you do have that in your hard copy in your folder tonight. This one, you probably wouldn't have to do, but this is done due to the new collective bargaining changes, and we're not going to change all of our 400 series simply because 400 series obviously deals with personnel. A lot of those deal with types of collective bargaining issues, but I thought 400 and 402 made a lot of sense to do right now. Now, we're still going to have to follow the formal grievance procedures that's outlined in the master contracts, because the master contracts will supersede the board policy on employee complaints. But you know, as I read this, you know, I just think it's a lot more adult friendly than the wording of the old one, at least 402. And then you know, I think 400, the guiding principles for the 400 series, just kind of outlines it a little bit better. And so that's the only reason those are before you tonight. If you want to stay with the old 400 and the old 402 till we do the others, you know, we certainly can do that. I just thought these two made a lot more sense than what we had on the books currently. And I would take these two separately. If you want to approve these two, I think you could approve these two, waive the second reading and be done with them, and then hold the second reading for the other ones. But that's, again, that's up to the board. And
Any questions on those changes? Is everybody okay with those changes for four? Okay. Can we get a motion to approve the 400 and 402?
Move to approve the changes to 400 and 402
And waive the second.
and waive the second reading.
Second.
John?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Can we take the credit card ones
Yep.
first? Let's do the second reading of the 408. And there's several different.
There's 408, 408.1, and then there's 408.1R1, which is the regulations that go with 408.1.
Any questions on those? We did the first reading last month. If there's no questions, can we get a motion to approve those policies?
I'll move to approve board policy 408, credit card for fuel.
Do you want to include the 408.1 and the 408.1?
Sure. Also for board policy 408.1 and 408.1R1.
Second.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
The next one is Board Policy 498, and this is a second reading. This is the one we discussed last time about, we had some discussions on adding something with texting in there. I did receive feedback from 5 parents. All said that there was no reason that a teacher or a coach should be texting their child individually without having another adult on the text. And I did receive feedback from one teacher / coach, and he said that with all the apps out there that he doesn't ever use the individual text, that he actually has an app that goes out to all the players, or if he does an individual, it's always with the other coaches on that text as well, so that everybody was on the same page.
There isn't anything about texting in this particular policy.
Right.
So if you want something about texting in this policy, we can put it in here. You could probably add it to, I think it is 634, which is the technology appropriate use policy as well. I think either one of those. What I would like about this one is this speaks strictly to staff. 634, I think it is, speaks to students and staff.
634, you said?
Yes,
So would
pretty
you
sure that's it.
recommend if we add it to one to add it to both?
Oh, I think if you add it to this one, you're solid. I wouldn't necessarily add it to one. That's me.
Gina, I know we had a discussion, you talked about that. Is there any way that you see that we could add it in there? How we could word it?
Yes, I think you could add it to that social media paragraph, don't you, and say like social media and text messaging maybe, and then add, like a paragraph maybe before those sites to the websites specific to text messaging, or I suppose you could have a separate paragraph just relating to text messaging. But it seems like the social media usage policy is kind of complementary to what we're trying to do with the text messaging, create that division between personal and professional.
So you would recommend changing just it from social media and
And text
texting,
yeah.
and text messages, and then
And then have it, pin it down.
have another paragraph underneath before before
Yeah.
all the FERPA and stuff, those websites.
Yeah, or if we really wanted to highlight it, have it be a separate, a separate heading like cell phones and social media,
So it says text messages.
just text messaging, yeah.
I think that'd be a little more clear to highlight text messaging.
Okay.
Right underneath, if cell phones do something, text messaging.
Yeah, or under social media, either one.
I would say under the social media,
Because that's where most of the questions have come. I got asked about that. Well, how how does that work? When can you use it, when don't, you know? But if there's apps out there, can you put that in, encourage the use of group text or group apps or whatever, or apps, you know?
Well, I know.
As long as there's another individual on the text message,
Yeah.
I think text message is fine.
Yeah.
The trouble is not having.
Just specify no individual teacher to student text is allowed, and just make it very clear.
I know what, my daughter, when she was in 4th grade, her teacher sent out texts to the parents, reminders of tests and what to study, but it was from an app. And it came through, and you couldn't respond,
Right.
but it came to you.
Yeah, it's one-way communication.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you have to join the class to do that?
Mm-mm.
Was it a remind me?
No, he just took our cell phones and remember.
There's a lot of them we can use.
It was actually really helpful for, you would say, go to this website and study this. So what is everybody thinking about wording of it? So, Gina, you're the resident professional.
Yeah, I could come up with something and send it to Rob, because I caught a couple other just like grammatical things I was marking as I was going through it, and we could bring it back for another
That's
reading.
fine, yeah.
Is everybody okay with that?
Sure.
So we'll just table that until next time?
No problem.
And the next one is board policy 708, 708R1, 708R2, the bus service eligibility. And this is a second reading also. Did anybody see any questions or errors in it at all?
Pretty straightforward. I like that it clarifies that the video is part of student records. So,
If everybody's okay with that, do we want to go ahead and approve that one?
I move to approve the revisions to board policy 708, 708R1, and 708R2.
second.
Gina?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes. Next is the voluntary retirement, board policy 433. Did you have information for us on that, Rob, or Gary?
Gary has some. I can tell you approximately number eligible. I mean, well, the first thing is someone has to be 55 years old, minimum. Well, we would have, and this is just teachers, we would have 49, well, excuse me, they have to, according to this particular policy, they have to have 15 years of service and be 55 years old. We have 49 teachers who have the 15 or more years of service to the district. Of those 49, 17 are 55 years or older. And in addition to those teachers, there's 5 administrators that would qualify for those 2 criteria as well. I'm not sure, and Elaine was gone on vacation for a week, and so I wasn't able to get that information regarding classified staff. And that turns over a lot. So I'm assuming that'd be a lot less. Because a couple things. One, they have to be full-time, 30 hours or more, have the 15 years and be 55. So there would certainly be some custodians that would fit that criteria, but not a lot of other support staff.
Do you think like a couple custodians?
Three, for sure. That would have all of those.
So money-wise,
But again, you know, before Gary gets to the money part, if you look at that policy, here are some things that are in the board's discretion. For under Roman number 1, letter B, 15 full-time continuous years of service to the district, or a total of 30 years of full-time service. That's under the board's discretion. Be anything you want it to be. D, you know, you'd have to change that because obviously those dates have passed. E is the board's discretion. Roman numeral 2 under voluntary benefits. Our letter B there again is up to the board. Under the regulations, the part that's in bold type is, again, would have to be changed. One thing that I would have the board consider is if you're going to do a voluntary retirement, as part of the incentive, designate a amount per day of sick leave, or how much sick leave basically the district would buy back, and I think that would be prudent.
do we have that now?
No.
So what happens with their sick leave now? They just lose it
Or use it.
before they retire? Do we have a policy that they can sell back every year so much?
No. We have a very generous policy. You can carry over 120 days of sick leave. And then, of course, you get what the next year is, which, well, if they're carrying over 120, they've been there long enough that they're getting 17 days a year. So that basically says, going into this school year, they'd have 137 days. What I would suggest in something like this is that the district not, you know, I'm not sure you got to pay for 137, you know, but you could, whatever the number is, you can decide what the number is. You want to pay for 100, you want to pay for, you know, 120, whatever. That just gets it there.
Is that paid out of the management fund as well?
Yes. Yes. It's all part of the benefit package.
Seems a little bit duplicating to buy back sick days. I mean, if you wanted to do raise the dollar amount, would do the same thing. Or is there a reason to, maybe it's just,
Incentive to
Get to
not
work.
sick strike. 'Cause if you're-
Whatever
if
the
you're really
number
wanting them
is,
here,
that would be included in the number, or that is the number.
right,
You know, that's the criteria. One of the criteria is that, you know, the policy, instead of
Instead of a
B
flat
reading
number.
a lump sum payment of 50%,
so much.
you know,
more.
it's so much per day of sick leave you have. I don't know what the magic
Up to a
number is.
maximum of so
Yeah,
much.
but up to a maximum of so much. So, I mean, that's,
It's an incentive for them to be here, because if they're working in the district, you would have to assume they're the best person to be in that position.
that's exactly
And you want them here as often as possible.
Well, you hope that they would.
I've seen it. I think it's a great idea, if you're doing something like that, you tie in sick leave,
When I was
pay out. And just as a small token, I've seen other districts where they've done it as a small token, they might give somebody $20 per day of sick leave. You know, it doesn't add up to much in the management fee, but it at least,
Something.
it's something. And those
Well-
teachers think, well, at least they're giving me something for it, I'm not throwing it away.
I'll be here.
I had
You know, it's another
a,
small.
I had a neighbor that had retired from another school district this spring. And was telling us that this month she gets her retirement, $45,000, which goes into annuity just like the way we do it. And then also gets paid for her sick leave, which I think was $3,000, something like that. But that too will go into the annuity. So,
When I was teaching, we always could sell back up to 5 days a year. Not even retiring. And that kept, that number down, so it wasn't up into the hundreds and twenties, because people were selling them as they had that much.
Do you think that incentive is needed, Rob? Do you think we'll not get enough applicants?
oh, I don't know if that'll have any bearing on the applicant number.
I think that's more the
I think
incentive
it's
to-
more, I think it benefits the district. Just from that standpoint. But that's,
You'd have to,
some would tell you that that's not being very professional, I'm sure. You're making me come to work when I'm sick. No, we're not making you come to work when you're sick. You're sick, stay home. That's
Just
one of
off the top of my head, I'd see it something like this. If assuming you're gonna do the 30,000, maximum 30,000, just throwing that out there. I would use half of that as they're gonna be granted 15, the other half is gonna be tied to sick leave, and use the 120 days. They're still gonna get their 17 for this year, so if they had to use some, they're really not cutting into their 120 days. But it's at least an incentive for them to. That's just my initial reaction and look at it.
can you check with other districts, Rob, and see how much they allow, if they allow this, and how much they allow to be
You can see it all
turned in?
over the board.
Huh?
You can see it all over the board.
And what do they pay? Is it prorated amount? Because isn't there sick day, their pay, if you broke it down by days, is pretty hefty, right?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily, I don't see, personally, I don't think you have to pay their per diem rate.
Okay.
You choose an amount.
You can
If
throw
you
a-
take that times
you just do a
whatever
flat
days.
dollar amount.
You want to
per
pay
day.
for the 120 days and pick a number, $200, $250 a day. That's what the number is. The whole idea behind this is if you're not going to plan on reducing staff and reducing cost, then don't do this. If you're not committed to doing that, then don't do this policy. But I will tell you that this district, like many others, is going to have to reduce cost and reduce staff in the coming years. And I would go to tell you that if you don't do that next year, you're going to have to do it deep the following year. Because I'll bet anybody tonight that allowable growth will be 0%.
So if allowable growth is 0%, Rob, what do you anticipate us having a ballpark, having to cut next year?
Well, I'd have to go back and look at, we've already got settlements, so it wouldn't be that hard to figure. We've got settlements with both associations of the major employee groups. And then we know where we typically land with non-bargaining staff. So whatever that number is the amount that we're gonna have to cut. Because at least that amount, because we don't know what enrollment's gonna be. I think we have a pretty good idea what the cost per pupil is going to be, and so that's for the following. So that's for 18, 19. But the only thing you can cut now for 17, 18 is at will employees. You're with contracted people, you're tied to that.
Where are we at with the numbers, Gary?
Well, I hope this is kind of what you were looking for, but at the top there, I think the balance at the end of last fiscal year, now, there's still a possibility we would have some, both revenues and expenses coming in, but chances are pretty slim. So we should be right at the $893,268 for a balance coming into this year. Now, your receipts for next year, again, this is pretty rough because I haven't done the line item budget yet, but I'm guessing about $358,000. That's more than you levied, but we have some sources of income in that fund other than tax receipts. For example, there'll be some interest. We usually get a dividend from our insurance company. So I figured all those in there. So I anticipate your total resources for next year at about $1,251,000. Okay, then you start on the expense side. Just for the expenses we're going to need in terms of insurance and possible unemployment, that type of thing, I'm estimating about $325,000. Now, there's a good chance that that's going to go up because we do have a major claim that we haven't filed yet because of that lightning storm. If that goes up, though, the revenue side is going to go up as well, so it'll be a wash. Then, so then that leaves you, if you take that off, you've got $926,000. Then, if you decide to do the equipment breakdown insurance, last year that was $177,000. I estimated $180,000. You don't have to make that decision until 1st of January. That's when that policy renews. So that would be $180,000, leaving you $746,000. Now, they're also offering an HVAC insurance, which quite frankly, we might be more interested in that than the equipment breakdown insurance, to be honest with you. I don't know if you have to have both of them or if you can pick and choose. I just threw out a number there. I'm not sure what that'll be, but I put $25,000 for that. That leaves you $721,000. Then, next year at this time, we will have to pay our insurance up front for the year. The one you approved tonight was $266,000. I estimated $275,000, so we need to have that money on hand. And so if we reserve that, that would leave you a total of $446,000 that should be available. So, hopefully that's kind of what you were looking for.
Are people thinking that we want to keep the 15 full-time, that, and 30-year full-time service, that same? Because that's been up and down. It's been up, when we first came on the board, it was at 20 years, wasn't it, Dwayne?
So, that's been as high as it's been.
Yeah, 20 years or 34 time. When we first came on, it was 20 years or 30 full-time service, and then it was 50%, the max of 50% up to 14.
So our max is quite higher now.
And we did that, what, 2 or 3 years ago when we had to make
This
big
fund has
cuts?
had a pretty healthy balance in it.
Yeah.
We purposely have been decreasing the balance
Right.
over the last, 3 years, so.
Frankly, there were times we probably had too much.
Yeah,
I mean,
because I
I hate to say that,
remember you
but
saying that, it's like, 'cause it was like, it was over $1 million sitting in here.
Well, and school districts are starting to to do that more often, and I do think there is a purpose behind it, because the board has control over that. And if you have a balance in that fund, you can even out your tax asking a little bit. You know, if you have a bad year and you have a balance in the management fund, you can kind of even that out, rather than if you'd have to levy for all that you would need that one year. But typically, I can remember when I started, the balance in that fund for most school districts was extremely small. Now you see a lot of districts have a balance like we do.
Also with this, you don't have to accept all staff. You just set a certain number of staff that you're willing to accept. And it's the first, if you say it's 10, it's the first 10.
Last time we did 6, right, and then we
We
extended
did
to
that
7.
one year, we did 6 the very first year.
Yeah. I think the thing to remember is, yes, we want to reduce costs, but it was hard to find some of those positions this year.
Yep.
And to have that, you don't want to
Well, the
reduce
question-
costs and then be left in.
If you
that situation
assume
too.
no 0% on state aid, if I remember correctly, because of the formula, we're probably gonna have a deficit in funds, we actually have a reduction in funds compared to this year. It's 100, I can't remember,
30?
30,000, yeah.
Something like that.
So you're already 130,000 whole, and then you get into the increases. So in my mind, I'm trying to weigh out a little bit of what's an appropriate dollar amount to try to reduce. You know, because if you have, say you spend 300,000 here, that's not reducing expenses by 300,000. Maybe reduce them by, I don't care, you could help out on that, because you're hiring people back, plus this is kind of eliminates some positions.
Well, that's.
And there might be
that's-
some that would be
yeah,
eliminated.
There's some things that you have to do if you do that. You know, I know a district, I'm not gonna mention the district, but I know a district that didn't levy it all in one year, but was paid their benefits out over, I think, 2 or 3 or maybe 4 years, but committed $2.5 million to early retirement. But they had to do it. Some positions they didn't fill, and other positions they said, we'll fill them, but here's our cut line. You know, we'll pay up to BA plus, BA, step 6 or BA step 10, whatever the number is. And now, at the end of the day, you still want to get your best teacher in front of the kids.
Right.
So sometimes you make that goal and sometimes you don't. But the goal is still to hire the best person you can get. And please don't waver from that. Don't hire somebody just because they're $2,000 cheaper. And
Where are you gonna save
not
money
to-
is if you get 15 people to retire and you only fill back 12. That's where you're gonna save.
Right.
Whatever that
Or-
is, I'm not saying it's just teachers, it's whatever.
Right.
It's-
Or you fill back,
You're gonna save some filling.
5 of those people with
At a reduced cost.
at a $25,000 to $30,000 savings.
Yeah.
Right.
But the other thing to remember is your management fund is 100% property tax. And we purposely didn't levy as much this year because of some other things that we did levy for. And the other thing is to spend this down a little bit.
So would it be a slap in the face to reduce the maximum under 25,000?
No.
You have to remember something.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything.
Sure. But just
So,
be responsible as a board.
yeah, there's nothing wrong. And again, I said this last month, this doesn't have to be approved tonight. Because even though we'll pay this in July, this is calculated into the next year's budget as well. I mean, if we have to, Gary will probably yell at me tomorrow for this, for saying this. If we have to, we can borrow from another fund
Yeah.
and put that into the management fund in order to pay for this. But you're going to have to pay that fund back
Yeah, back.
when the revenues come into this.
Yeah.
And that's, obviously more work for Gary and Diane than it is me. My work is just telling you about it.
And we've
But-
done that before. But
I think it's probably imperative that we do some level, whether
That's-
it's
that's what I'm
7 or 10 employee volunteer retirements, just because of our entire situation with finances. So it's just a matter of, then how many do we hire back out of that? Or we just, do we have to take a couple hard cuts on that too? I don't know, but we're gonna do something.
And I was just asking Gary, what was the cutoff point where, I'm concerned I don't wanna raise the
I
tax
just-
rate
I use
more
50.
than it is. If you go below, it would have to be higher than 100 not to raise that, you say.
It looks like if you do 30,000, it'd be like offering 14 employees, 14 or 88 employees or something would use up that,
Would use up
yeah.
that 300?
I was thinking if we did like 5 to 7 employees, offering it to, or,
And what about sick days? How, do we put a limit on how many sick days we have to buy back and how much are we buying them for? Because that has to be included in that too.
Sounds like a pretty crazy
Too much
formula.
thinking.
yeah.
That's what Gary's for. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's something that, we
Say what Dwayne had, we were kinda talking and kicking around the same idea.
Just about, have a dollar amount, a target amount that we'd like to put out, and then we can then hash through from that. Let's work it backwards about how many retirees would that be at X dollars, and
sort of like 345, right?
Both of us kinda just put $300,000 without even looking at each other.
yeah.
Before he even said what was comfortable.
So
I
wouldn't-
kinda said,
wouldn't-
well, I
don't
probably
think I'd
wouldn't
wanna do
take it
more than
below
3. I don't know if
150.
I'd want to do more than 300. But it
You
just,
wouldn't want
just
that total to be below 300?
No, the total would be
the payout.
the payout.
Reduce the fund by more than 300, that'd leave you 150,000 in there. And that's the top end kind of for me.
That
You
coincides
know.
with what you said too, John, 7 to 10 employees.
I don't know if that'd be okay, I was just talking to Gary about, I really don't want to increase the tax rate for
No.
the early retirement, and he said at 100, we would have to increase the tax rate.
If you were down below 100?
Yeah.
I'm not positive, because I'd have to look at what we're generating in
Yeah.
levy for this
Well-
year, and I don't have that with me.
The other thing to keep in mind is we're look ahead 2 years from today, we don't want to have this thing down, so,
Right. That's what he
You
said
don't want
too.
to drain
We
it
can't
all,
do
you don't
anything the
want
next
to
year.
run this so low that we have 0 options a year or 2 years from now.
Right.
So if we have to,
Yeah, because it took a while to build this fund up
yes,
to where it
it's going
is.
to take a while to build it.
It'll
And
take
it
a
may
while.
not build back up.
Yes, yes.
So I'm looking at, we need to probably reduce the dollar amount per whatever individual, and then actually pull a few more individuals, like, whether it's 20 and 12, 20,000 and 12, or something variations in
Well,
15 and 15, or, whatever the number may be.
We may not be able to replace all the teachers with that retained retirement too. You have to take some, just hard cuts too.
Yeah.
But we also have to remember, like what Rob said, that, we might lose a teacher that we have to have and not be able to replace, it might be very costly to replace them, just given the position. Like a science teacher, that we have to provide that course. But our only option might be to hire someone with a master's and 16 years experience too. Because of just the limited amount of people out there for the different areas.
Well, say
That's
that.
why I think you'd
say that-
increase the number a little bit and reduce the dollar amount. As opposed to going 10 and 30, 10 staff and 30,000, I would be more inclined to do a few more options for staff, because, you were saying, what was there, 17 possible staff, 5 administrators, another handful of custodians and other staff.
Can you limit the different positions? How many from each, like teaching? How many administrators, that type numbers?
The policy, the way it's written, says the applicant can submit a written resignation, and then the resignation is contingent upon approval by the board for participation. So if there was a teacher whose position we didn't think that we could fill or it wouldn't be cost effective for us to accept it, then couldn't we deny their application?
Don't think about that. as
Probably
if-
not that, in that manner. Here's, I'll walk you through what happened last time, because here's what, in past years, last year was the first year we had this problem. Our, yeah, I think it was last year. Maybe it was 2 years ago, last time, we didn't have it this past year, so 2 years ago. Is typically, we would have these due, they could start, not due, they could start applying for early retirement on July 1st. And there have been years where we've had people lined up outside the district office door at 8 o'clock. So we said 8 o'clock on July 1st is the first time we'll accept them. And we have to number them as they come in. Well, if they're all there at the same time, and we're gonna take, let's say, 5, and there are 7 people there, then we have to draw lots for them, because that's what the policy states. So, that's what we do. You know, we get a deck of cards, or we get numbers, and they pull it out of the hat, and 1 through 5 are accepted. And we've done that more than once. This last time that we did it, which was 2 years ago, we had everybody show up at once, because it was between a certain date at 7:30 a.m. And they came in here, and we looked at how many people we had. We said we were going to take 6. I don't remember if there was 12 or 13 people here at that time. And they drew lots. We drew a line at 1 through 6, wrote their names down, kept everybody's name and number, and went back to the board at that point and said, well, this is what we have. Would you like to take more? And we did. It was a little bit different then, because we also had more money in the management fund than we do right now, and we could afford that.
Right.
Now, you know, as again, we've been spending this down on purpose. You know, it might be prudent for the board to say we're not going to do it in 17-18, but we may offer it in 18-19, and we're going to levy some additional dollars in the 18-19 budget in order to do that. Fiscal year 19, in order to pay for that. You may want to roll the dice and say, no, we're not going to do anything, and see what happens. Some people may retire when a person walk in today, they just decided, you know, they're going to retire. We had people retired this year when there wasn't any incentives.
Now, the program, I just wanted to get my expenditure report. The program that you offered, not this year, last year, cost you $235,811.
How many employees was that?
I don't remember.
No, I don't either, but see, here's the difference. Not everybody qualifies for the 30,000.
Right.
In order to get the 30,000, you have to, your base salary has to be 60,000.
It's 9. Is that 9?
I think,
More than that.
I thought it was 9
Or did we-
teachers, and then we had a
Then there was a
couple
couple
of
others.
support staff.
And
What was
one
it,
of them rescinded.
a total of 11, I think it was.
That's the number that comes to my
Yeah,
mind, but I don't,
Something like
I
that,
can't
yeah.
remember.
How much did we save, Gary?
How much did we save? I don't know, but I can figure it out.
Wasn't it around 300 that we were trying to cut?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, there were some positions there we didn't hire back.
Yeah.
That's the biggest savings, where somebody goes and where 3 go, 3 things in shift and got 2 positions rather than 3.
I know we didn't offer it a couple of years that we were on the board because we didn't want it to be an expectation of it's every year.
And it should not be offered every year. I
Well,
would
we're kind
totally
of
agree
in a
with
different position, we don't have much of a choice this year, I think we need to offer something because of where the state budget is at. And, you know, we might still end up offering this, and still have to make some cuts.
I'd like more information before I make a final on this with numbers, just from like Rob of him doing the numbers, kind of anticipate how much, you know, we're gonna have to cut with a 0 state supplemental aid.
as far as where that would come out is for dollars and.
Yeah, just to have an
states.
idea of what,
Flat
you know,
enrollment and what.
flat
kind of-
enrollment, just to have an idea.
Yeah.
And then we can kind of work backwards
You
from
could
that.
play that calculator on the
Yeah.
website too, Jenna. Look at that a little bit.
And I really am nervous just because of losing too many staff too. I don't wanna do that, where,
I know. Well,
Rob, could you?
We,
Oh, sorry.
ahead. No,
Could you
what-
come up with some language about how what you propose for the sick leave too?
yeah, I can, if you want, if you're interested in doing that.
yeah.
This year, we levied $299,999. Don't ask me why that is. Probably because it came out to just over 32 cents a thousand. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of, as far as property tax, what it costs. For about every 300,000, it's gonna cost you, say 33 cents.
And so, yeah, if you look at that, see, you need about 350 to operate bare bones. So then the question is, which, you know, we've got that option here later in the year, do you do the equipment breakdown or not? Because then that throws another 170,000 back into the mix. So those types of things, but yeah, it takes about 350,000 to pay your insurance and the basics. Any unemployment, you gotta have some reserve for that.
how much do we use to break down insurance this year?
Well, we just got our first report, I haven't even looked at it yet, but that's for the first half of the year. So I would say at this point,
Because those funds went back into the general fund, if I remember correctly.
And Gary and I were visiting about that today. We've used it a lot with the technology piece. We haven't used it a lot in other areas.
What's been the range the last 2
You
years?
even though it's an expense on the management fund, you gotta keep it, there is a benefit over onto the general, which helps fund the area of the cuts.
that's.
Here's
very-
What's been
and
the
this is what I
range of
shared with
levy?
Gary,
How
or
much
the range.
of levy has there been in the last few years?
This year it went up, what, 69 or 70 cents. That's the biggest jump we've had in a long time. When the buildings were on there, I'd have to.
I'm saying more
Yeah.
in specific of the management fund. You know, if it
Oh.
was 32.5 cents this year, what's
What that
been-
fund has
yeah,
ranged
where's
from?
that range been?
Well, sometimes, in order to keep the tax rate flat, we've increased it, to be honest with you. More than we probably needed to at that time, but we're trying to,
Not sure.
it's
Change,
just,
fluctuation.
trying to keep it steady,
It
but,
goes down a little bit,
um,
stay down.
so like I shared with Gary, the management fund, there's one thing about difference between the management fund and the general fund. The management fund, you can always go out and get money. It's not popular, I get that,
But it's there.
but you can go get it. You can't do that in the general fund.
No,
In the general fund, your hands are pretty tight
yeah.
as far as
What was-
increasing additional revenue. And so, what you'd like to see with the breakdown is if we're paying the premium of $180,000, are we getting $180,000 back?
Absolutely, that's,
Well, you'd like to see that. But at the end of the day, even if you got $90,000 back, that's $90,000 more you had in your general fund than you did when you didn't have this. And this isn't coming out of your general fund. So
like I said, you need
it's,
to weigh that
it's
out.
absolutely,
It is gonna vary from year to year.
And I think we'll see a little bit more of this down the road. I wasn't,
I think so.
I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but I wasn't overly thrilled with them, what I saw in the first 6 months. But
So Rob, can you get us that information and we can table this to the next meeting?
tell me what you want
Is
to
everybody
say.
okay with that? Just information on some
Supplemental-
scenarios.
Supplemental state aid, and then comparing that to the contracting cost increases.
With the
It's
flat
gonna show us
enrollment.
where we're gonna be at a deficit.
Gary, can you figure out what we can do with $300,000 payout then? What that looks like as far as,
We can structure that
Oh,
out.
we can structure it.
how we can split that out, whether it be with number of employees or
We can do that, or we.
Gary's really gonna yell at me now tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
But
Scratch.
you also, you know, and
You can
I'm
do it over
throwing
a period-
another wrinkle
You
in
can
here.
do it over a period of years if you wanted to.
Absolutely.
Gary doesn't like that. We don't want to
I
upset
don't like
Gary.
that either.
Well, and maybe at this point,
Well, because you're
just
kicking the can down. You
for,
gotta get
for
out.
some of you that haven't worked with it, or the press, or
2 years down the
whatever,
road, you got-
you might wonder, why would we offer a bonus to people to retire? Well, it's an incentive, but remember, for the average person, they're gonna take that money and spend it on health insurance. Now, we could pay for their health insurance. We've been down that road. It is so much cleaner for us to just give them the money in an annuity, then they can take that money and pay for their health insurance until they're Medicaid eligible. But that's the whole reason that why we're doing it. Because you're incentivizing people to retire before they might normally retire. So,
And you either will not fill that position, or you will fill that position with a lesser paid employee.
Okay.
And then, do you want to explore the idea of sick leave payback?
What would be a target date to have a decision? What do we need? What are we looking at?
Well, that's a good question, because some people weren't happy when we told them that they had to make a decision in September. So from the employee's perspective, I think, you have plenty of time. From the district's perspective, you have some time, simply because some of this will affect what we levy for fiscal year 19's management fund. And so obviously our cutoff there is March 1. I mean, we would want to know how many people we're going to have taken into.
We got some time.
So
Absolutely.
maybe say, let's
I
pass.
mean, I would tell you, there's a lot of districts don't even enter this conversation until December, January.
Yeah. So I'm thinking if you by October.
Yeah.
something like
September,
that.
October, you make a
September,
decision,
October,
and you might not
start
have to have the paperwork turned in
Yeah.
until
Okay.
first of October.
So are we okay to move on?
You tell me.
Can't get any better than this, can it?
Yeah, and let's go to the next great one.
You know what, though? Problem is every time I have one of these meetings, I have more work to do. I leave here with more work than I keep.
Means you're doing your job right, aren't we?
The next one is board policy 705, negative meal charge policy. It's a new one that's required.
Gary can probably tell you more about it than I can, but we're required, and I'm sure you've heard, either heard on the news, read in the papers, whatever, about having payment of meals when it reaches a certain amount that students can no longer charge a la carte, extra entrees, breakfast. But now, some of this is our local language, and so Sarah and Gary worked on this. So when a student got to $40 negative, they would get, and I would tell you that our staff will call and email
As soon as it goes there.
parents, grandparents, whomever. However, we get we'll give them 3 additional meals that may be charged to that account. So now they're actually up to 50, probably, almost $50 negative. And we would allow them to do that until when the account reaches this limit, a student shall not be allowed to charge anything until the native account balance is paid. So, in the past, we have offered some alternate meals to folks. This policy comes as a result of doing that because they discourage that. When I say they, government discourages that. They feel that you're shaming the students. Now, some districts would pass that out in a paper sack. Well, obviously that sends a red flag. To my knowledge, we've never done that. We also have some organizations in town and the community that we could go to if we know things are dire straight for an individual for one reason or another, and they'll pay the negative balance. And so the student would start at zero again, either at 40 or even before it gets. And there are groups in town that'll do that. So, you know, the issue is the controversy with this policy is, you know, poor Johnny's gonna go home hungry. Well, Johnny's not gonna go home hungry, not in this school district. Isn't gonna happen. Not as long as I'm here, one way or another. We're gonna get. What did she tell us, Gary? We're right under $400 in negative balances right now, district-wide. Now, I would also tell you, they do a good job of working with people, calling people, reminding people, emailing people, and you know, there are things in place to help those that can't make those payments. It's called applying for the free and reduced lunch. And sometimes it's our food service staff working with people to get them in here to fill out the application. You know, and then part of the problem solved. But, you know, I my personal opinion is I don't like the policy, but it's not that I don't like what we have in the policy. I don't like the philosophy behind the policy. And so there happened to be an editorial, I think, either in yesterday or today's Des Moines Register that talked about why doesn't everybody get free lunch at school? It should be the same as textbooks and supplies in the classroom and everything else. You can make an argument for that. But
There's just no money for
Yeah.
Somebody's got to pay for it.
Right.
exactly.
it. We're not gonna get it from the government.
But then look at the summer food program. That's what
Yeah.
astounds me.
Yeah.
And you get,
Well, it's important to note that your very low income people, not affected. If they apply for free and reduced lunch, they're already getting free meals, okay? Then your next step up, those group of folks, they're paying 40 cents for their meal, okay? I think that's a little bit of a travesty because that 40 cents, the cost of meals has continued to go up. That 40 cents has been there for at least 30 years. And I think it's been there for a lot longer than that. I think it was maybe that when I was in school. But that's still 40 cents per meal. So that's your next group of people. What we're talking about is the people that are above that, most of them. I mean, you have a few in the 40-cent group that are delinquent, but that's not so much the problem. We're talking about the next group of people, so they should be able to afford those meals, they just don't pay. And like I say, what we're doing now is working. We're the envy of a lot of districts. I talk to a lot of districts in central Iowa, and this is a problem all over. Ames at one time had well over $100,000 in negative claims.
Wow.
They implemented a policy similar to this on their own about, a year and a half ago or so. I think she's down to about 37,000 now. But it's a huge problem because if people know that they're not responsible for their debts, all of a sudden nobody pays. And there is no guarantee of a meal. I mean, you can bring a sack lunch. This is a service that we're providing, and you cannot subsidize your school lunch program with general fund monies. So if we run a negative, I don't know what you do. The state's answer to that was, well, I guess you'll have to have bake sales. You'll have to have a fundraiser. Because you can't supplement it with other monies. So we have got to run this thing in the black if we're going to make it work. And what we've been doing is working. Like I say, we hound people that are delinquent. But like Rob said, we have had some situations where people have extraordinary circumstances that don't necessarily fall under the federal guidelines. And if that is the case, we will go to some outside agencies and seek help for them. So I really think what we're doing is working, and this policy kind of reflects what we have been doing. So we're not trying to punish people, but we also want people to know that this is a bill that you owe, just like when you go to McDonald's, you don't get free food. Somebody's paying for that. And if they're not on the free and reduced lunch program, that money's got to come from somewhere to pay for that meal. So I think it's a reasonable policy, and we try to make every effort not to embarrass the kids, because quite frankly, it's not their fault. It's the parents that didn't fund their account.
And a lot of times if a high school kid's negative, they'll have a couple bucks in their pocket. And they'll just pay it as they go through the line. Well, rarely a first grader that's got a couple bucks in his pocket or her pocket. And so that's the fear, is who it's going to affect the most. And so, but Sarah wants to make sure that she can get this mailed out with the free and reduced application that goes out here pretty soon. And that goes to every household, and so we're meeting the policy of how we're going to communicate it. Things like that, so.
Do we need to waive the second reading? So we can
I
get that
would.
out? Okay.
I would, simply because of timeline.
Anybody have any questions on that? Can we get a motion in waiving the second reading?
I'll move to approve board policy 705, negative meal charge policy, and waive the second reading.
A second.
Brad?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Next is we have appointment of board secretary and treasurer, which is Gary.
Who is that?
What do I need to do, Gary? Do I do?
Need a motion in a second?
I
Vote?
move to appoint Gary as the board secretary treasurer.
Second.
Dwayne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Gina?
Sorry.
Yes.
She was thinking about it.
Do you get votes?
She was
Gary?
The train's going.
Want to do this?
Okay, now.
Okay. Gary, do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of Secretary/Treasurer in the Carroll Community School District as now and thereafter required by law?
I do.
So, do you know?
Yes.
Really good, huh? And next, we have the resolution of the issue of the warrant.
This is a warrant that we've approved annually for years. It's reviewed by the auditor every year. But this allows us to pay certain things, and most of these are listed in the code when the board is not in session, and that includes utilities, freight, drainage, express, so forth, FICA, IPERS, CESA-dues. You know, that CESA-dues,
I don't know. That's gonna depend this fall. Both CEA and CESA dues.
We need to take those out?
let's leave them in there, because we're gonna have to do whatever is required by the law. That will supersede this, but I do believe in that recent legislation that was passed, we cannot deduct CESA or C.
I think now you say that, I think you're right.
So those have to be withheld from their private account rather than us withholding them. I didn't think of that until just now when I read through this. But I would say you could leave it in there, because we're gonna have to do what's required by law anyway. So, but that is one change that I'm pretty sure is gonna be affected by that recent legislation. So,
There's someone want to read this and have a second? Is that what we need to do?
The Board of Directors of the Carroll Community School District hereby authorizes the board secretary to issue warrants when the board is not in session for the payment of utilities, freight, drainage, express postage, salaries, state and federal taxes, FICA, IPERS, CAA dues, CESA dues, employee annuities, United Way contributions, health insurance premiums, rural recreation center dues, advanced transportation expenses, registration fees and related costs, court-ordered garnishments, and previously approved contracted expenses.
John?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Next on to the bank
Yeah.
deposits.
The bank depositories, this is the same as what we approved last year. We don't have money in all those institutions that are listed, but it allows us to deposit money in those if we would want to. So,
So do we just need a motion to
just
accept
need a motion
it?
to approve that.
Okay.
Move to approve the bank depositories resolution for 2017-18.
Second.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And next, budget updates.
Just a couple things here. On the sales tax for 17, keep in mind, we still are dealing with the FY17 budget, but yet we're also starting the FY18s. And so I prepared both of those for you. On FY17 sales tax is kind of the blue highlighted one. And you can see there on the back side of that front page, there's an approximate balance of 1.7 million. Now that sounds like a lot. We do have June's payment to come in. That'll come in at the end of July, maybe even August 1st. But as you go to FY18 sales tax, then, as you can see there, it paints a little bit different story. Now, it's not as bad as it looks. We got good news and bad news. The bad news is on FY17 is pretty healthy, but on FY18, what I have done there is we've taken out July's expenses of $107,000, and then the 51,708 is that goes into that what's called sinking fund, and that pays our bond indebtedness throughout the year. And then I've also have penciled in there the $250,000 that will transfer to Pepple for the stadium out of sales tax. Now we don't have to do that in August, but we might be starting to get a couple more smaller bills in by then. I don't know if we will or not. And see, you have to remember we haven't sold bonds yet, and we probably won't sell bonds until either late August or early, maybe even late September. And so, but that's the reason why you see expenditures there for almost $1 million already. Well, you also don't see any revenue there for all year, so you have to also estimate about $1.5 million in revenue. And so I just like to show you the expenses because those are known expenses that we have. And that's so we kind of know what we're working with there. Pepple is a very similar picture. If you look at FY17 Pepple, again on the back page.
Hey, Rob.
Yes.
On the 18, we would have another transfer for stadium there too, out of that, correct?
18,
Yes. On the sales tax.
it's there.
On the 18, oh, there it is up there, okay, excuse me. Yep, okay.
On Pepple, we have almost $500,000 in there, but then again, you go to the 18 budget and you approved almost $300,000 in expenses in Pepple. Of course, most of that were buses. And then we had some non-instructional software that we pay out of there. And so, but again, we don't have any revenue coming in yet either. And we won't see revenue in the Pepple probably until October and November is when we get the first half of that in. And so, really, I would tell you that both of those funds are in pretty good shape, or pretty healthy, and still be able to do what we need to do as far as buildings and grounds and things like that. So, Gary?
The green sheet, we're getting close. We've got one more month of possible expenditures. But of course, the most important one there at the top is the general fund. On the expense side, what you paid tonight, we shouldn't have many more expenses. You may have some utilities left, but you paid tonight almost all of our special ed tuition out bills. There's, I think, one coming from Des Moines yet. But if you look at the revenue side, I've sent my bills out for special ed tuition, and so we'll get 100 and, I don't know what they total, 100, so let's say 130,000 will be coming in on the revenue side for special ed as well. So we, hopefully, it looks like we'll finish the year pretty good in the general fund there. Activity fund looks good. Management fund, local option sales tax. If you notice PEPL, that looks a little out of whack because the revenues are so high. That's because we transferred that $250,000 from the local option sales tax. And the other one then is the school nutrition fund, and that one looks healthy as well. So, I'm pretty happy where we're at right now. So.
If you're
We'll
happy
see.
this time of the year, it's good.
That's right. That's right. And I just don't
You know the
think.
saying in this office is?
Gary's happy, we're all happy.
Gary ain't happy, nobody's happy.
We just shouldn't have many more bills, coming. So looks good.
Any questions on that? Agenda for our next time is that we have new teachers reporting the 14th, 15th, 16th. All staff report on the August 17th. August 21st is our board meeting, and first day of school is August 23rd. If you have anything that you want on there, can you let?
Put early retirement back on there.
Yeah, I think we yeah. If you can get back thinking about that, so. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.